Ty Brennan, and Anita Roman.
Paying tribute to a senator and a war hero. Senator John McCain's motorcade making a special stop at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. this morning. These are live images of that happening. John Hook is also live in Washington this morning with what we can expect going forward for today.
And the scene shifts to Washington's National Cathedral as we say goodbye to Senator McCain. This should be a very stirring ceremony today with two former presidents speaking, delivering eulogies. We'll have a live report coming up.
And closer to home, smoke fills the air in one part of town. Phoenix Fire battling a second alarm pallet fire in the overnight hours. We'll have a live report.
Plus, Scottsdale police officers saturating the streets on the lookout for impaired drivers over this long holiday weekend. We'll tell you what you need to know. Well, good Saturday morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us for this special edition of Fox 10 AZA and Weekend. Let's get right out to the weather and talk about what you can expect for today. It's going to be a beautiful day out there. We're starting with a few little clouds out there, but we'll be quickly warming up. 88 degrees is our current temperature out there with some light breezes. Again, we're going to see temperatures right around 102, some cloud cover down here, but some storms are expected a little bit later on in the high country. We're going to break it all down for you in your full forecast in just a few minutes. Well, a national memorial service for Senator John McCain is scheduled to start at the Washington Cathedral in just under an hour now.
Lawmakers, friends, family, staff, and other global leaders have been invited to take part in this private event. Former Presidents Barack Obama and George W. Bush among those expected to deliver eulogies. And in the past half hour, the late senator's body was taken from the nation's capital and is now at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, where Mrs. Cindy McCain will lay a ceremonial wreath honoring all those lives that were lost during the Vietnam War. We're going to take a live look from the scene right now.
And this is that procession as they left the Capitol. Here we go. These are live images coming in from us right now. This is, again, Mrs. Cindy McCain at the Vietnam War Memorial, laying that wreath there in remembrance of all of those who gave the ultimate sacrifice fighting in the Vietnam War.
And of course, Senator McCain, a former Navy aviator, a POW himself, a prisoner of war for a number of years in Vietnam.
Yeah, 5.5. He was trapped in what was called they nicknamed it the Hanoi Hilton.
Yeah, the senator, as many have memorialized him the past couple of days, had talked about how much he loved our servicemen and women and how hard he fought for them. And so this is taking a moment honoring all of those who he honored throughout his time that he served our country. And of course, Cindy McCain has been participating in a number of ceremonies and events. A very difficult time for the family, the nation, honoring this senator.
You can see the family all now heading back to that motorcade, which will then drive another few miles to the Washington National Cathedral this morning to kind of conclude what has been a very emotional week.
She's walking there with General Mathis, and then, of course, you see the family behind. We have Bridget, Meghan McCain is there, Senator McCain's other children in attendance as well. And as we mentioned, the National Memorial Service is set to start in just about 1 hour's time.
Yeah, our John Hook is live in Washington, D.C. He's been there for the past couple of days gathering a lot of really important information for us. John, this is going to be, as you mentioned, kind of the culmination, a really a moving culmination today.
Yeah, Ty, I think so, because we're going to get a lot of the eulogies, obviously, from former President George W. Bush, former President Barack Obama, two people who vanquished John McCain's hopes of reaching the White House. So it's so interesting and poignant that he would have those two here to deliver his eulogy. And as we know, he asked both of them back in April if they would do this. John McCain knew he was on the clock, and he got the diagnosis about a year ago, and he started making plans. Everything you're seeing this week, John McCain had a hand in, including the singing of Danny Boy today. Renee Fleming, the opera star, will sing Danny Boy, a song that John McCain listened to quite a bit after he got his diagnosis. An Irish folk song that talks about a dying father and his son off at battle. That will be a very stirring moment. The dignitaries are showing up here. We saw Roberta McCain. She just showed up, his mother, 106 years old, delightful woman. We ran into her first on the campaign in 2000 and then 2008. She is just a treasure. And I think it's got to be so difficult. She never thought she would see this day where she would outlive her son. We're going to hear from the kids as well today. Meghan McCain will speak. We're going to hear from Henry Kissinger. He's covered the waterfront of people who are part of his life publicly and his family. And this we will get today. And then, of course, the private ceremony tomorrow at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, which is such an interesting choice for John McCain to be buried there because, as you know, it was not a career of distinction at Annapolis. But I think John McCain is sending a message to those naval cadets. Even if you struggle early on, you can still do something great with your life. And I think that's why he chose that spot, and obviously being near his comrades from Vietnam.
John, some have said this is the who's who of Washington, Wall Street, and Hollywood. Warren Beatty will be attending the private service, of course, former Presidents Bush, Barack Obama. I think this really speaks volumes about the lives that Senator John McCain touched, the people that he knew and worked with.
No doubt, and all about reconciliation. I mean, think about the bruising primary in 2000 between John McCain and George W. Bush, yet he would ask him to deliver his eulogy, as well as Barack Obama, who also dashed McCain's hopes to reach the presidency in 2008. And I think Barack Obama, frankly, has said he was caught a little off guard. He didn't expect John McCain to make that request, but he was happy to fulfill it. And as time went on in their relationship, a very frosty relationship early on, even in the U.S. Senate, it was that thought. And John McCain wants to send that message that even through the battles politically, there can be reconciliation.
Excellent message.
John, you've been, basically a front row to history this past couple of days. Is there one thing that kind of stands out in your mind, that's something that you'll remember from these past couple of days covering this?
I think so, Ty, and that moment would be John McCain lying in state in the Capitol Rotunda. I mean, that is reserved for presidents. Only 13 U.S. senators have been afforded that honor. It's usually reserved for presidents. Obviously, Rosa Parks was honored in this way as well. Civilians have been honored. That isn't lying in state, it's lying in honor. Reverend Billy Graham most recently. John McCain transcends kind of national politics. Let me give you an aside. Danish television is broadcasting this back to Denmark 4 hours straight. And I was talking to a journalist from Denmark this morning who said the reason is that their country is struggling as well right now with these questions of how much should government do? How much should it pull back? And how do we get along in this atmosphere of rancor? And that John McCain, as an international figure, represents how you cross party lines and try to get things done for the common good. That's why they're showing it. And she was very direct about it. And so it's so interesting that he is really a man of the globe. I mean, he traveled to over 100 countries in his career. And as he told me one time, he said, Johnny, everywhere I go, there's trouble, there's danger, there are hot spots. And he was well aware and wanted to see firsthand the dangers out there globally. And so he is really a man not only of the United States and of Arizona, but of the world.
John, this is a little personal for you in the sense that you have covered the senator extensively. You rode along when he was campaigning for president. And so obviously you're very professional in covering the topics and the senator. But it's hard, it's difficult when you spend so much time with someone to get to know them personally.
Yeah, Anita, it's an end of a chapter for me. I mean, I've covered the guy since 1982. I was in journalism school at ASU, and he was out knocking on doors in Tempe trying to drum up votes to succeed John Rhodes at that time, a legend in the U.S. House from Arizona. And by the way, John McCain only won that primary. It was a four-way primary. He only won it by 3,000 votes. Wow. This was not a landslide. John McCain didn't enter the scene with an overwhelming amount of support. He just outworked everybody. And so, yeah, it is personal for me because I've known him for so long, and I've seen him in so many different phases. And I think two come to mind, frankly, the 2000 race, when we went with him on his final town hall to Peterborough, New Hampshire, and he was a rock star. It was just amazing how folks in New Hampshire were reacting to him, responding to him and his brand of politics, which played very well in New Hampshire, which is independent-minded. Then it's followed up by the trip into South Carolina, which is where his presidential hopes in 2000 ended. George W. Bush called it his firewall, and it was. And the minute we hit the ground in South Carolina with John McCain, he was a different guy, it was a different state, and the climate was entirely different. And you could feel it from the moment you got there that it was Bush country, not McCain country. Those are the kinds of highs and lows you experience with a guy over the course of a career, and that was encapsulated in just 2 short weeks. We felt both ends of it.
John, thank you so much for sharing your memories. We look forward to your continued coverage today. And of course, you can watch the entire service right here on Fox 10. That begins at 7 a.m. We will carry it live in its entirety.
All right, a little bit later on, we're going to take a look at some national headlines caught on camera. Dash cam video captures the moments before a Pennsylvania man shoots 2 police officers. We'll be right back. Stay with us. .14, we start out with a traffic alert this Saturday morning. This is a live look from one of our ADOT cameras. This is the off-ramp there. The eastbound lanes at the I-10 is closed at Wild Horse Pass due to a bad crash. That crash happened around 3 o'clock this morning. We're still waiting to get some more information from DPS, but drivers are advised to take alternate routes. They can go south on SR 347 and then go east and re-enter the highway at Queen Creek Road. But you can see a lot of folks now taking that off-ramp. And if you look to the right of your screen, that's where you can see that that road is shut down. Big
backup out there this morning. All right, let's get to some local headlines for you this morning. Fox 10 news alert out of the West Valley.
Yeah, that's where Phoenix fire crews are battling a second alarm pallet fire. This is near 67th Avenue and Buckeye Road. Stefania Okoli on the scene live for us this morning with more details. Good morning, Steph.
Yeah, Anita and Ty, this was just a hot mess here earlier last night into this morning. And I can tell you now, crews have cleared the scene, but you can still see that this pallet yard is still smoldering all over the place. A pallet yard carrying nearly 160,000 pieces of wood here where they make pallets. Take a look over here. If Mario would just come over, you can still see a little pocket of fire burning here. Of course, they say that the fire is contained to this area, so I guess that's why they cleared it, because they're not worried about it spreading to other surrounding structures. But let's take a look at that video last night to just show you how massive these flames were. Incredible video coming from the Phoenix Fire Department that really just shows the magnitude of this fire, how fast and wildly it was spreading. These flames just ferocious. I spoke with someone who works here earlier today, or works near this yard, who told me that they believe that this fire was actually started by someone who was angry, possibly at the owner or someone in this yard. But just a terrible thing to do, because this is just a lot of damage here. This is wood pallets that they use, that they sell, that they recycle. A recycle yard right next door. People's tractor trailers were burned as well. Windows blown out. Just the magnitude of the damage here is just incredible, Anita, Ty.
All right, thanks so much, Steph. We appreciate it. Pretty interesting scene out there. All right, 6:16, let's take a look what you can expect in the weather department for today. Starting off fairly warm already at 6 o'clock this morning at 88 degrees, a light breeze coming out of the southeast there at 6 miles an hour, a beautiful sunrise. Projected high today right around 102 degrees. It's going to be nice and sunny here in the valley, but we do have a chance of maybe seeing some storms develop a little bit later on this afternoon in the high country. Places like Flagstaff, Sedona might be seeing some lightning and some rumbles of thunder up there a little bit later on. But to break down your day, by noon, 96 degrees, 5 p.m. 100, then cooling off for an overnight low right around 77 degrees. So these are the temperatures as you walk out your door this morning. 84 in Goodyear, 81 in Buckeye, 80 in places like Wickenburg, 86 in Deer Valley, as well as Scottsdale, 86 in Chandler, and 84 in Apache Junction. But take a look up north, still some fairly, I guess you could call them chilly temperatures up there. 50 degrees for your current temperature in Flagstaff, 50 at the Grand Canyon, 70 in Kingman, 66 in Prescott. The warm ones on the map still this morning, 82 in Lake Havasu. Window Rock, you're coming in at 55 degrees. We are tracking some storms that are moving on the extreme eastern side of our state. I'll zoom in, show you exactly where they're at. Again, these are moving fairly quickly right to the east, but they are producing quite a bit of lightning. So we're starting to see a little of those move through the Payson area just north of Verde in between Sedona there. Also probably seeing some of those lightning strikes up there. Heber Overguard area as well, starting to see some of that rain, but then this is the majority of where we're seeing that storm. Again, this is on the extreme eastern side of our state, but it's quickly moving its way out. But again, there is the chance that we could see some more storms develop a little bit later on this afternoon. Forecasted highs around the state. Look at this, only 102 in Phoenix, 102 in Casa Grande, 82 in places like Payson. Very comfortable, 73 degrees for your projected high in Flagstaff, 76 at the Grand Canyon, 95 in Kingman Page. Your projected high is 89 degrees. So we talked about our projected high today, 102. It's normally 104, so we are a few degrees below where we should be for this time of the year. Obviously nowhere near our record that was set back in 1950 when it was 116 degrees on this date. So looking ahead, kind of have a carbon copy, a beautiful long weekend if you do have the Labor Day holiday off. We're going to keep those temperatures in those low 100s through the next couple of days with plenty of sunshine. And of course, you can get your full forecast anytime, anywhere. Just download our Fox 10 AccuWeather app to your smartphone or tablet. It is free, and we have all the details on our website right now. Just head on over to fox10phoenix.com.
And coming up after the break, we're going to introduce you to Pima, today's pet of the week, and how you can adopt.
Pima dressed up for the occasion.
Handsome baby.
Yes.